Okay, I just want to talk a little bit about the experiencing of the world and transcendence of the experiencing of the world, especially in relationship to body symptoms and also other things, like things which are occurring in the world. Now, in terms of the course, I myself I was very attracted to the course because at the time I had a lot of physical problems with my body. And I listened to one of the Course in Miracles teachers and also a teacher of enlightenment, Dr. Hawkins. He had about 20 illnesses. And he did the Course in Miracles and they all left, all 20 of them. And he started up an attitudinal healing group. People with cancer, AIDS, myasthenia gravis, all their illnesses reversed themselves and left. So, and I knew he was telling the truth. And when I had kidney failure, I had gout in my feet, painful gout. I also had asthma. And as I did the Course in Miracles, it took a few years of just repeating the course every day and doing the lessons. But then, one day I was discharged from the asthma clinic. Also, suddenly I didn't have gout attacks anymore, and so they had to stop the medication for the gout. And I had a transplant. So it was just like he had said. Through miracles, everything was released. Now, there's a very strong, I come from a scientific biochemistry, degree in biochemistry. So there's a lot of beliefs around the world is real, and that I have to be subject to all these things from childhood, from science, from everything. I have to be subject to all these ideas. And basically, in Lesson 14 of A Course in Miracles, which is, it says in Lesson 14 something very, very mystical, which to the rational mind, but it makes sense if you think that everything is just a projection of the mind, and you can transcend it as soon as you release that, you see. You will no longer be at the effect of that. I'm talking more on the level of physical ailments, anything from hormonal stuff, which the ego justifies a hormonal thing which can't be transcended, or physical pain in the body, asthma, like you can't breathe. All of these things actually can be fully transcended, so they have no effect on you. And often it's not guaranteed, but often these things will be removed from you as well in the outside world. So, and that was my experience as well. So it states, and this is why I think, the Course in Miracles, it drums you in. You need because the world is regularly imprinting you or hypnotizing you with hundreds of belief systems, which you then become subject to. Now, I'd say in terms of, you see, if you look at it on a certain level, everything in this world is belief. Everything that is experienced in this world is a belief. And that's why it seems to be, in one's experience, materialized and being experienced. And if you no longer had that belief, it wouldn't appear for you. If you had zero belief, you'd have zero appearance of it. In your internal, that's guaranteed internally, and most of the time, it's not guaranteed, it'll often happen in the material world. You'll see that as it's released in, it's also released out. But even if you release it in and it's not released out, it's still released on the inside, so it doesn't matter. So everything that happens, now the Course talks about our shared collective beliefs and our own individual beliefs. As humankind, we are subject to the collective beliefs of all of humankind and also to certain cultures. Maybe in this culture, it's important to be thin, or in another culture it might be important to be something else, So there's sometimes the collective beliefs, and everyone in a certain pool tends to believe the same, like money is everything. In certain cultures, money is nothing, you see, so it's like these are beliefs. But also there are some deeper belief systems, if everything is created out of belief, and one's individual ego is expressing and seeming to create perception in the world, you have things like what I'd call the archetypal Jung is quite good in this. There's certain archetypes. You could say there's the female archetype as a generalization, and there's the male archetype, which would have a collection of belief systems, which means that generally females are subject to certain beliefs, and a lot of them share those beliefs. It doesn't mean just because a lot of people share that belief, it's everyone's belief. Or they may not have the belief and not be subject to what many go through. So the ego tends to go, well, if many people have it, it must be real. But actually, you probably find people who've done spiritual work are not subject to that, are not experiencing that. You could say they have, the buzzword is they have transcended. They have transcended the body, they have transcended pain, they have transcended hormones. They also, in the states of enlightenment, you transcend both the male and the female archetype, and everything, all the suffering caused by either archetype, which you become, as you hold those beliefs, then you become subject to them. They seem to appear in your experiencing of the world. Physical pain, hormonal imbalances, mood swings, reactions to the world. They all become because there is a belief, and if you hold a belief for long enough of a certain type, it can also physically express itself. So you can pick up a belief like in cancer. If you believe in cancer, then if you believe it strongly enough, you'll get it. You know, it's like if the newspapers say, I shouldn't really say this, if the newspaper said there's a cancer epidemic and no one can escape, you'd probably find the rate of cancer would start to increase quite rapidly. You know, I think, what is it like, was it bird flu or something? And they were like giving you newspapers, this is what it should look like. These are the same, I mean, then people started reporting it, you see. They just believe, oh my God, I got it, someone coughed on me. And then they suddenly I got red blotches on their face, whatever. So the thing is, when you remove the belief, I guess, you know, the people doing, you know, like the gentleman who lost his cancer, just as it says, it's the belief. If you hold the belief, then it expresses and you're subject. And you can say sometimes these are belief systems, like it could be, you know, you have a system in which or a subsystem of belief systems, like I'm subject to this hormonal thing going on at this time, and then I'll have these severe symptoms, and then you get that, you see. Or you can pick it up someone, you know, you hear someone say, you know, this is what happens to me and it's awful, and then suddenly you have awful things. So it's like, as you release the belief, for me, as you release those beliefs, you can no longer experience it. It's transcendent. And actually, in my experience around physical symptoms, because that was one of my main thrusts for doing the spiritual work, to transcend. Because if everything is just a thought, and a thought which is held in mind is a belief, you see. And when you have a belief, you seem to be subject to that belief experiencing in your life. So if I had a belief in cancer, I might have, it seems like I've got the body, it's got cancer. If I have a belief that I'm subject to big hormonal swings, I'll have that. And when you do it, you know, in my experience, actually, these things leave from the physical body, which is amazing. But even if it didn't, it would leave from the internal landscape. You wouldn't notice it because you have transcended it. So this is the thing, and one of the things which I was glad I've got an opportunity to share today. And this also goes not just on the physical realm, but I was very attracted to letting go of all these horrible things happening in my body. And my head was saying, no, it's scientific, you have to have it, it has to take so long, you have to take a medical remedy to try and soothe it, you know, whatever I had. But actually, just doing spiritual work has got rid of it, you see. I'm not against taking remedies, but the Course actually says those are what they call it magic.
Yeah.
Course calls them magic, you see. It's like, oh, you know, I've got a pain in my foot, I'll take a painkiller. The Course would then be going, you've got one belief system, and then you're going to try and use another belief system in the world to try and get rid of, and because you believe that one even stronger than this one, that one also works. But it's not the root. The root is the belief. And now you're using different beliefs to do it, you know, which then, you know, like I'm sure the doctors don't want to explain the placebo effect, you know, which is that if you probably told people that this drug has a 99% cure rate for your type of cancer, and they gave you a sugar pill, a certain percentage of people, even if it was life-threatening cancer, would just spontaneously recover. So that's the belief. You believe that doctor so much, and he gives you this pill. He says 99% guaranteed. And you do. You see, just on the belief. So none of this, for me actually, any kind of symptom can be removed if you release the belief. Once the belief is removed, now I was just talking here on the physical plane, but this also happens on like relationships and things coming up in your life. When they're fully released, then you'll no longer be having any reaction to them, you see, because once it's released, and actually if you fully release it, you may not even notice it, you see. Even if it happened, you might not notice it, because it's like the Course talks about specialness, the projection of specialness. If a thought is special, if a sensation in the body is special, then it's what I call trapped. It's experienced. And when it's not special, when it has no projected meaning on it, it's not. If it's completely none, you wouldn't get the experience of it. Now this is happening with everyone all the time. Like you'll go into certain environments and not notice things in those environments. You don't notice the things which have no meaning to you, which you have no particular belief around, which are not important. So if I said like, what did the clouds look like 10 minutes ago? I mean, no one even remembers. It's not even picked up. But if you've got a big thing, a trauma around red pillows, or red cushions, and you came into this room, then you'd have a memory, or you'd actually experience something, a reaction to, and this can be in the body, or this can be externally, or it can be a person. These things, so one hasn't yet transcended either the physical symptom or the reactions of people, or whatever. So they seem to be held and create an imprint. And this is also with physical symptoms. As long as there's gross interest or belief in these things, they still have the power to keep recurring. And when the belief is taken out and the interest or the specialness given to these symptoms, they disappear. It's called transcendence of these. Full transcendence means it's no longer even a problem, you see. And my experience is with those things. So that hence what I call Course in Miracles is a mystical program of amazing power, you see. And often these huge amounts of power come because you're tapping into the universal truth, which has the ultimate power to release. Because, as it says in the Course in Miracles, you're not a victim of anything in this world. But because you have belief and track and have a relationship with it, which is personal, these things create suffering. Okay.